Welcome, Warriors, to episode 14 of the Legacy Warrior Podcast. I'm here with my partner in crime, Stephanie McKinley.
Hey, everybody.
Man, we're about to bring you guys some fire today. You guys don't even know who's on here today. A super special friend of ours, a world changer who continues to spread his light wherever he goes. We connected, gosh, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago now. And, we only bring people who are the epitome of what living a legacy warrior life is, and people that are focused on service and impact and turning their pain into purpose on this show. So I can't wait to introduce my brother from another mother, Marcus Black. What's up, bro? What's happening?
Yo. What up, family? Hello. Howdy. How are you? I'm so elated, excited, ecstatic just to be here with you, two incredible warriors and world changers, man. And this incredible community. What up, family? Thank y'all for having me.
See, you guys thought I was playing.
I love that.
You know what's funny is Marcus says, let's go a lot and fam. And then I knew, because that's how I talk too. I was like, oh, we kindred spirits already. So look, I'm going to read some of the bio of this man that we have on here today, because I think it's really important for everybody to understand who we have here. What have they done? And then we'll get into Marcus's story and learn how he's turned his pain into purpose and how you can do the same thing using some of the tools that he did. So look, Marcus is a former pastor. Yes, he is an ordained pastor, and he's currently an urban missionary providing leadership and mentoring programs to inner city schools. He's a best-selling author multiple times now, an internationally acclaimed speaker, a life coach, and host of the Vitalize Podcast. He also is a co-pilot of Embrace Your Ambition, a traveling faith-based personal development conference that I had the blessing of being able to speak at last year. He was recently named one of USA Today's top 9 coaches to help you level up your life in 2022. And you know what I love about Marcus the most is he's deeply dedicated to continuing to spread this message of love, of hope, of positivity into the world. And he's already spoke to tens of thousands of people. And I just love his tagline. He's going to say it at some point during this, but he always says after everything, because you can. And yes,
Love that.
we all can. We all have a choice. We all have the ability to be the light in the world that's needed from the voices who need to hear from us, from the people who need to hear from us. So I can't wait to jump into this podcast today with Marcus and get this party started.
Yeah, I have to say, the first time I heard Marcus speak, and this was through the Clubhouse app, so some of you know about that. If you don't, you should check it out. First time I heard him speak, it was like he was really speaking to my soul, right to my soul, and I could just feel everything he was saying. It was like he was speaking right to me, and it's like Walt mentioned, like he really is the epitome of a light in the world. And I love what he's doing. I love what he's about. Just really, really, really good people, good soul. So really take notes on this one, because this man has incredible wisdom to share.
So Marcus, what's up, brother, man? How you doing today?
So you guys gonna do all of that, and then you expect me to come and be able to?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because you can.
Correct. Nah, man, I'm doing good, man. I'm literally excited to have this conversation and just talk through things, because just, off the top of my brain and my heart, like we live in a perpetual state of overwhelm, and everybody is becoming heavier and heavier, heart's heavier, mind's heavier, like the vision is colluded, like we can't see clearly, there's no clarity on the journey, and we don't even know why, and so many people are just fighting through that. Feels like you're swimming upstream, like everything is pushing you the opposite direction, and you can't find any ability to move forward. You can't find any momentum, any traction to get where you're trying to get. And that's why situations and shows, incredible conversations like this one are imperative for you to tap into and listen to, because so often in life, you just got to go, grind, and you never stop. You never pause and assess where you actually are mentally. Where is your heart? Where is your mind? And so you wear down, you burn out, and you feel like throwing in the towel. However, when you put yourself in a position with like-minded, like-hearted thought leaders who lead with the heart first, just like this incredible couple here, like just like Walt and Steph. I hope it's okay if I call you that. I feel like we're family. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
but when you put yourself here and you get to tap into these type of conversations, it helps you realize a couple things. Number one, you're not alone. Everybody has pain. It's universal. Number two, your pain does not define you. And number three, you can overcome your pain and give it a purpose. So I'm glad you're here, and I can't wait to tap in and have a conversation.
Woo, that's what I love about Marcus.
During that, you talked about people being stuck. You also talked about people understanding that they're not alone. I think what most of society misses, because, and I do it too, by the way, we just get stuck in this negativity cycle, whether it's content that we're taking in or whether it's our own self-doubt, our own self-limiting beliefs. We don't ever really take an opportunity to look at our life resume and say, wow, I am powerful. Wow, not only have I overcome what I've been through, but now I'm using it as rocket fuel for my life. And that's a mental transition we need to make. The purpose is always derived from the pain. The purpose is always derived from the pain, but you have to see the pain as a lesson that's going to catapult your life. And so I know that you have just an incredible story. I've gotten a chance to hear it a couple of times. Stephanie, I know, hasn't heard a lot of it. So
no, I'm dying to hear this.
She's excited. So I want you to lead us up to the moment. I know you had this pinnacle life-changing moment at 18 years old, but talk about this journey that started with some pain to get you to the point of where you can be this light in the world where you're at right now.
Man, oh me, oh me, oh my. My journey, you talk about, started with some pain. Like that literally was the majority of my memories. I was born in the heart of the South. So what up? Got that Southern hospitality, born in Memphis, Tennessee, raised in Mississippi, as you heard in the bio. And there's a lot of wonderful things that come with that. Like there's, good old Southern hospitality, great food. As you can tell, I definitely enjoyed and indulged in all of that. Yeah, good sweet tea, barbecue, like all the things, right? But not everything was so wonderful. If you look at the statistics in the country, most of the negative statistics are led by the southern states, including education, including like the rate of poverty is the highest, the education rate is the lowest. And so insert my family into this. And so my parents were, small town, small, humble beginnings, just trying to do the best they can to build a life, but there's struggles. And you all know as well as I, when you have struggles, you have choices that you make with these struggles. And, I had a mom who was fighting to try to live a life for God. That was her grounding and her spiritual base. But my dad he chose to fill his void and his soul with other things. So he chose to fill them with alcohol and gambling and women and all the things. And the difficulty with that is when you fill the void in your soul with things that are destructive, that's what you create around you is chaos. And so insert little Marcus into chaos. Yeah. And from most of my life, it just felt like turmoil. It was a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of times where I felt like death, honestly, like life was like death. And so I remember happening like early as I can remember having this first pivotal moment in my life where I was literally hanging with a friend. It was cool. We was cool and 9 years old, chilling on the video game. And I remember like it was yesterday. It's like in the moment I was playing Street Fighter, my favorite game as a kid, and I watched my little 2D character die the video game death. It's like the and then he's laying on the ground. And in that moment, it's like something happened to me that I'll never forget. Like I got sucked into a black hole, and it was just like I could feel the breath literally being taken out of me. I couldn't breathe. I started hyperventilating, and in that moment, I started imagining. I'm 9 years old, imagining myself going underground and dirt covering me, being buried alive. I cannot breathe, and now I'm sitting here just like out of it. I'm done. I'm gone. I'm like overwhelmed. I'm crying. My friend is freaked out. He's 10. He's going to get my mom. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. We've done this thousands of times. He goes, grabs my mom, brings her in, and she's shaking me. Finally, the breath comes back, and I was like trying to catch my breath, and she's like, baby, are you okay? What happened? And all I could do was look at her with tear-filled eyes and ask, like, Mommy, am I going to die? And she was like, my mom always kept it real. She was like, well, yes, baby, you are. She said, but not for a very long time. And I said, okay. And then she just hugged me and she held me. But in that moment, like, I literally started to see and put together that like life often felt so tough. It felt so awful that I often equated it to death. And I would realize why that was so pivotal to me, but not yet. What happened was, after that moment, I began to cater my life to this fear, this extreme fear of my life ending, death, and dying. And so, if you guys don't know what happened that day, if you hadn't picked it up but yet, like, I had a visitor from a monster, but I ain't talking about the kind that live under beds and hide out in closets. Like, one that hunts almost more people on the planet than anything and any other situation, and that's anxiety. Anxiety came to visit. And I wish I could tell you that was the only time, and it went away, and they all live happily ever after. But unfortunately, that was a recurring nightmare that would play on a loop for years. Every time I go to bed, I dealt with this, and it was horrible until it leads to the moment you mentioned, Walt, which is I struggled with that. That was at age 9, all the way up to age 18, and at age 18. I remember like just just a night, man. I'm chilling. I'm just trying to chill. At this point, football, like, things are going well for me because I'm finding an escape. I see football, I got scholarship offers. This is my escape. I'm getting out of here. I'm going and running away. I'm never coming back. And it was October of 2004. And my friends and I were coming home, and we were literally on a highway. And I'm not driving, so it's cool. We're just going 75 miles per hour, no drinking, no smoking, no drugs. I mean, just good, clean fun. We had gone to Battle of the Bands. We're headed home. And I remember my eyes were closed. And as my eyes were closed, I remember hearing boom, right? It was like an explosion, the loudest sound I ever heard inside of a car, and one that you never want to hear if you are inside of a car. So I wake up startled, and I'm like, what just happened? I'm looking at my friend who's driving because I'm in the front passenger seat. What happened? He doesn't know what happened. And I'm like, that's a problem. Then he starts yelling, I can't. And then he can't control the car. So the car starts jumping. Then we start fishtailing, and then we fly off the highway. Dukes of Hazzard, nearing a bridge, about 25 to 30 feet, deep down into this median. It was like the fastest, slowest moment of my life. Like, glass was smacking me in the face. My head was snapping to and fro. Trees were smacking me in the face. We knocked down about 6 trees before finally another boom. And we hit this massive tree. And I sat here smelling gas, hearing all these sounds, like not knowing fully what happened and afraid of what I'm going to see when I open my eyes. And in that moment, I had a revelation. And the revelation was this: you are about to die without having ever lived, which all along was my worst nightmare. The reason anxiety haunted me is because I was so afraid that what I was experiencing was going to be the only thing I ever got to experience, that I wouldn't live to see better days. I wouldn't live to see the dream. I wouldn't live to have an opportunity to go and build a life that was going to be the extent of my life, and that I would die without having ever lived. And that nightmare came real, or so I thought it did in that moment. I said a lot, so I'll pause because that's like
Yeah, wow. I have to say this takes me back because Walt and I were in an accident together, and we kind of had this similar experience of that was like the one moment where I can say I was thinking in my head like, Jesus, take the wheel, because I was driving. We spun out on black ice. It was snowing. It was a bad snowstorm. We spun out on black ice on the freeway. And in that moment that we started in this tailspin, I was thinking like, Jesus, take the wheel. And I'm thinking the same thing, like, oh my God, my life's about to end and I'm only 18. Like, oh, whoa. Like, and we crashed in an embankment too. And same thing, like, car was smoking, and my best friend was also in the back seat, and Walt was in the passenger seat. And he's the one that actually got us out because my door was jammed shut, couldn't even get out. And so we had a similar type of
we were
experience.
in between trees with the car smoking. I thought it was going to blow up. I jumped in the back seat and could only crack the door and kicked it until the door bent so we could get out. I mean, it was really terrifying.
And and we walked away with, I had like a thing on my knee, like my knee went into the door,
With
but
nothing.
like really nothing, no scratches, no nothing. Like, how did we walk away from that? And the car was mangled. I mean, so it just, wow, just, so what, I guess I'm like, So at that point, now, did anything happen to any of you that were in the car?
Nope. We all walked away. Now, what I didn't tell you is that a tree went through the car. So it pushed the trunk all the way. I mean, we were like an accordion. Like the car did this.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, it's crazy the similarity because we were trapped as well. We couldn't get out. Maybe I watched too many Fast and Furious movies, something. I just was waiting. I was waiting on the boom.
Yeah.
I heard the sound and we couldn't get out either. And like we were pinned between trees and I took a door off a hinge, like completely off of a car. Like they laugh about it now. Like it was, you hear about those stories, like the little old ladies like picking up cars off of babies.
Yeah.
It was like one of those.
Well, do you even know what caused the accident?
A blowout. A blowout. We had a blowout. Yep. And so that now, okay, this is a part of the story I don't always share depending on who the audience is, because honestly, this is when my relationship with God became real, because there's a lot of things that happen that are non-coincidental. Like, so you guys get a special part of the story. So, first of all, before we had this trip, my friend and I was fighting over who could sit in the front seat, who could ride shotgun. We're fighting. And he's like, I called it first. And I said, I'm bigger than you.
Like you do at that age. That's what we do at that age.
Yeah, we were 18. We're 18. He's like, I called it. I was like, I'm bigger than you. And he's like, so it doesn't matter. So I wound up letting him have it. I got in the back. We went, just before we got on the highway, we stopped at a gas station. And my friend, but we didn't get gas. We didn't do anything. We just sat in the parking lot. And I was like, we good? My friend's driving like, yeah. I was like, okay. So what are we doing? Then my other friend was like, you know what? Now that I think about it, you can have the front seat. I was like, I'm already in here now. And he gets out of the car. So then I have to get out of the car and we trade places. And then we get back on the highway and we go along. Once we had the blowout that sent us off the highway, in the air, we were going down forwards, but the car did a 180. So we hit the tree from the back and it went through the car this way. Now, all that happened, right? So we're down, picture this. We're in this big ditch. It's the middle of the night. It's like 10:30 p.m. We're in a ditch. It's dark. The car is doing that. We just took the door off. We are literally like trying to climb back up to the side of the highway. And so all of us friends are going, as 4 of us. We get to the top and there's a huge pickup truck that just pulled off the side of the road. Now, I am still in Mississippi and we are 4 African-American young males. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
And he pulls over, he gets out, he comes running and he says, I'm a doctor. Just got off my shift at the hospital. He has he already had the tools. Wow. So not only had he already called 911, he was able to check us all out before any situation. So he's checking us out. He's making sure we're good. Ambulance is on the way. And he's the one who told us we had a blowout. Well, here's what's significant about all of that. The police come, our parents come, they're crying. The police are like grilling us. Like, what were you doing? Were you speeding? Were you? And we're telling them no, but they don't believe us. But this doctor's like, no, I was behind them. They had a blowout. Yeah. They were going about 75 miles per hour. And so he's telling them, he's corroborating our story.
Right.
So when they go and do the report, the doctor comes, and I'll never forget any of this. It was so weird. He looks at me and he says, do you have your seatbelt on? Like his brain, something is happening in his brain. I don't know what's happening. I'm like, yes, absolutely. Because we were lying. I didn't. I'm being honest. But I told him I did because I didn't want to get
in trouble. Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to ask you again. He said, did you have your seatbelt on? You know how you're like a kid, you do the thing, you put your head down.
He got me. Yeah.
I was like, nah. He said, there's no way. There's no way. He said, there's no way you would have been alive had you had it on. Because of the way you hit. And so that's why he was like, I knew it. He it's like he felt good knowing like, okay, like just knowing like there's no way. Like, and so I'm like, okay, that's crazy. But second of all, he said, do you realize if y'all had hit that tree forward, it would have exploded on impact?
Oh my God.
And it's like, okay. And the reason we didn't hit the tree forward was because of the weight distribution of the car. Cause I'm a heavy guy. and my friend driving was small. Well, his brother, who was behind him, was large, and then the friend I traded seats with was small. So because we traded seats, caused the car in the air to shift backwards, and that's the reason I'm still here to tell you this story.
Oh my God.
So I'm curious, you had this life-changing moment and now you have a choice. Do you see it as that? Or do you just continue down the path that you're on? What did that moment do for you in reflection with your anxiety? Because there's so many people out there, people in my family, people I know very well, people that told themselves, my aunt is one of them. She has anxiety. And she used to think to herself, people would say they had anxiety. And she's like, pull your big girl panties up. Like, get it together. And she's like, I never understood what it would be like to try to just want to run out of a meeting for no reason until I started having anxiety. And now I just get it in a way that I couldn't have got it otherwise. And so you've got two types of listeners, ones that have it, ones that don't. Talk about that shift for you of being just kind of paralyzed by anxiety at times and the fear to having this moment, to how did that shift your perspective on everything afterwards?
It changed everything, but not immediately. It changed everything in that, the spoiler alert, obviously I didn't die. And then I'm like, okay, so I had this extreme gratitude and appreciation for life, but I didn't know what to do with all of that. But then I had questions. Because even though we all walked away, there was some structural damage that when I went into college and had to get real scans, not a bend over and cough physical, I learned that I wasn't going to be able to play football anymore without there being a high likelihood that I would get paralyzed if I tweak something the wrong way. So, okay, so I lose that. Then I'm just like in this situation, like that was my escape. That was my way out. Like, why would this happen, God? Like, why me? Like, why did I have to, like, then I'm like, why are there classmates of mine driving custom Cadillacs and they're not even old enough to have a driver's license? Meanwhile, we don't have food in my house for a week. We don't have electricity in my house for a week. Why are we living like it's a third world country? And why couldn't I have been born into this situation? Why this? Why? And I'm just like, why me? Why me? Why me? Which is a place that we often get to when we're in these situations. So what happened was I came out of that on one hand with this appreciation for life, but on the other hand, really questioning like, yo, you kept me here, but why? Like, why did I lose one of my best friends in life not 2 years prior, going half the speed we were, and he didn't even make it to live that? Why do I get to see life and he doesn't? Why? I'm just grilling. Why? And I kept asking God, and I kept wrestling for like a couple years. I was in this like stale, stagnant place. So somebody's in that place right now where you're looking at your life, you're looking at your circumstances, you're looking at your experiences, and you're wondering and you're questioning, why am I struggling so much? Why did I lose this career that I poured everything into? Why did this person walk away from me after I gave him my why? You're asking, why me? And I kept doing that. And I remember I was just about to turn 21 and I got a revelation. God finally smacked me and was like, I'm never going to get an answer to that question. And that's because the entire time I was asking the wrong question. Like the question was never why me, but the question was always what for. Mm-hmm. And when my paradigm shifted from why me to what for, I realized that there was a purpose to every experience I had, right? That paradigm shift. So in that time, to answer your question specifically, the anxiety was still running amok. It was just doing what it wanted to do because it was like, I'm not living yet. Yeah. It wasn't until I shifted the perspective and my paradigm off of me to realize that pain had a purpose, and that purpose was for me to serve somebody else and unlock the door for them to have life. That's when the anxiety started going away because I started living on mission and on purpose. And then experiences started to happen. Then I started to get to, travel. I started to get to see things in the world. And so I went from afraid of dying before I live to like actually living, which minimized the anxiety.
So I'm curious, what was your next step? Like, how did you start living in that purpose? What kind of things did you start doing that started to change your direction?
Yeah. So, I'm having revelations even as we speak that like, if you want, the key to fulfillment is figuring out how to serve somebody else. Amen. It's figuring out, and then the greatest way to serve someone else is to come from your place of pain, resonate with theirs, and show them the way past it. Like, there's nothing greater. And so I wanted to do me. Like, it was still focused on me because I'm like, I'm gonna go to school for finance. I went to school for finance. I'm gonna get this like big job downtown, high rise, suit and tie every day with my cologne, and like I just had this dream. But God kept sending extreme situations to me. Like, there were people who had been in like nightmare situations, like trafficked,
Yeah.
and wouldn't see a therapist, but they would talk to me. I'm like, I had situations where I'm pulled out of class because counselors can't get a person who's ready to throw in the towel on life, and they coming and grabbing me because a person said they'll talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm not equipped for none of this. I ain't got nobody's license, nobody's degree. I'm young, but that kept happening, like bizarre circumstances. Like, it was almost like there was a sign printed on my forehead, and that's when I finally submitted and said, "Okay, God, I get it. Like, I'm not supposed to go that route." And I switched my major to family systems and child development to learn about like the interrelation of families and how people interrelate, and internal and psychology and all of that stuff. And when I went that route, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to figure out a way to help people. And so basically, when you ask me what I did, it's I moved myself out of the way. I stopped worrying about what I wanted most, and I started accepting the signs that were pointing me where I was supposed to be going all along.
You know, I one of the things that you just said matters a lot to me. I feel the same way. My pain, the purpose in my pain was always to serve others. God trusted me with the pain that I went through, knowing how he was going to use it when I let my ego and what I wanted and the control that I was trying to grip onto get out of my way. I had a moment with a young sailor early in my career, and those of you guys who've been listening to the podcast know the story, so I'm not going to reiterate it. And my ability to open up a safe space and give them a connection where they wouldn't have talked to somebody else was hyper sensitive for me because of what I went through, not in spite of what I went through. She really changed my perspective on all of my story and how empowered I felt from my story by this conversation when she told me that I helped save her life. Then I knew why my story was the way that it was. What was the one moment for you when you connected with somebody? They saw you as a safe space. They shared with you, and it clicked for you. This is it. This is why I've been through the stuff that I've been through, and this is my purpose now in my life. What was the conversation you had where somebody trusted you, and then you had this profound change in yourself?
Okay, so I'm gonna have to do some fast forwarding here to get to it, because
Yeah.
So I'm giving you guys a timeline and everything. So I'm in this place where I'm awakened at like 21, right? But I still don't know what to do. So this is for the people who like feel like it's too late for you, or feel like your time is past, or feel like you missed the boat. Please trust me. No, it is not. It ain't never too late. Long as your heart's still pumping blood, it's still running through your veins, your breath still filling your lungs. It's not too late. So I go from 21 to like, just I want to help people. I want to help people. I don't know how to help people. I can't help myself. I over the course of that, I graduate college. I get married. We struggle mightily. Oh my God. Like, my 20s were a nightmare. From 20 to 30, it was like the wilderness.
I love that.
Out in the wild.
I was in the wilderness for a long time, but the one thing that happened, the most important thing that happened when I was in my wilderness season, is that I never stopped walking. Even though it was scary, even though I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, I just kept walking. I just kept stepping. I just kept moving. And I just kept stumbling from one setback to one failure to a loss to a setback. I mean, just that whole time is like a pinball machine being knocked around. But here's something interesting about the wilderness. You don't realize that when you're there, some things start to happen in the wilderness. Like, you start to learn some things in the wilderness. Like, it was in that place that I learned how to hunt. And I learned how to fish, and I learned how to build a shelter. And there were some tools that were put in my tool belt that I didn't even understand how this has to do with anything with what I want to do in my life. But God did. He knew. And so I get on the other side of that. I get hired at 27, 28 by a mega church. Massive church. I mean, this is like one of the Disney World of churches. I'm like, why would you hire me? Like, I didn't even go to school for this. Like, I went to school for psychology, family systems. I had Christian, like a minor theology, and they said, son, you have the only credential you need, which is a heart for God and his people. So when they hired me on, they put me in front of people. Now, I didn't want to be in front of people. I was like, yo, I'll do this job. I'll meet one-on-one. I'll care for people all day, but I'm not getting on that stage. And they were like, you are. And I was like, I'm not getting on that stage. There's nothing you can say to make me get on that stage because I'm petrified. I'm deathly afraid to be on the stage. And they're like, see you tomorrow at training. So you want a job,
that's called voluntold. That's what they do in the military.
So I show up and I'm like, they're demonstrating how I'm supposed to teach this class. And I'm like, good Lord, I can never do that. I can't do that. But I started and I got them. They put me, the first freaking class was like 100 people and I was about to die. I just wanted to melt. And so I taught that class every week for 3 years, going through the motions, just getting through that information as fast as I can. I pulling teeth. And this is all that to set up. This is the conversation. I was in that class one day, routine, like I was going through. I got it like clockwork now. I've been doing it for years. I can just get through this. I know what time I'm getting through it. And a young lady who had been coming for a while just broke down. I mean, she started crying. She started ugly crying. You know what I'm talking about.
I've been there.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking, like, not now. I'm being honest. Like, this is not the time for that.
Yeah.
And she just yells out, "Excuse me, sir." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And she was like, "I got something to say." And I'm telling you, I'm being very transparent. I was in my brain. I was like, "No, you don't."
Not today.
But she said, "I got something to say." And she's crying and she's like, "I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here." She said, "Do you realize that my family is in this building, in the next room? And they have no idea that I slept on a curb last night. They have no idea that last night, while I'm literally sleeping on the street, I'm snorting coke lines off the street. And I don't have it in me. I can't go anymore. I'm broken. I'm in pieces." And she just like melts in that moment.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And in that moment, this is when everything changed. Because I took this for the first time ever. Like, you guys know me now. You know my personality and the passion, the way I didn't communicate like that. But for the first time, I took those dang notes and I pushed them off that desk because this don't mean nothing. And I just zeroed in on her and I looked into her soul and I said, "You listen to me and you listen to me good. Whatever you did last night does not matter. Whatever you did this morning, whatever you did before this moment does not matter. And you are more valuable than you can. It don't matter who told you you're not. It doesn't matter who tried to break you. They didn't and they can't. Because they didn't give you your purpose. So they can't take it away." And I started speaking to her and I started speaking life into the beauty of her spirit and her soul and to the potential of where she could go. And I started just, and then like, I don't know. It was weird. It was like an out of body experience. And when we got done, we wrapped arms around her and she just cried the whole room and we just prayed over her. And that was when the light bulb went off. The light bulb went off in that moment because I didn't even recognize myself. I didn't know. And it's never been back ever since. And this is the revelation I had, is because anytime on any platform that I get in front of people, somebody is heard. Somebody's life is on the line. Somebody is this close to throwing in the towel and saying, "I'm out. I can't do this no more." And so now I communicate with an urgency, and it ain't about me and the information and how uncomfortable. It ain't about none of that. It's about a soul who I am connecting to, who is somebody right now is at the end of their rope. And this show is going to be the reason they don't let go. And so that was when the light bulb went off.
Man, powerful.
Very powerful.
And I love what you said. I don't want this to be missed in everything that you just said for people. It's never too late. God is growing you to get to where you need to be for him to use you in his purpose on your life. It took me until I was 44. Now, I had the moment with this young woman in the military 14 years earlier. That was the first piece of that journey and walking to the point of doing what I do now, of being able to share powerful stages with Marcus at his event, of being able to get out of my own ego and just reach the one. Somebody's not waiting for Marcus's story. Somebody's not waiting for Stephanie. Somebody's not waiting for mine. They're waiting for yours. They're going to change their life and you're going to save their life because you have the courage to feel empowered and stop asking yourself, why me? And start asking yourself, what for? Just like Marcus said earlier in this podcast, it is never too late. I don't care if you're 70 and you're listening to this. Have the courage to embrace who you are, the power in your story, and be the light in the darkness for the person who needs you, who won't get out of the darkness by listening to us three, who needs you. And when you can embrace that and go find the one, you will also find a level of happiness that you've been denying yourself your entire life. You have the choice today to do it. So, all right, Steph, before I go off on this, because Marcus, you get me fired up. Me and Marcus be on the phone talking. We be like, bro, let's catch up for like 20 minutes. An hour and a half later, I feel like it's that SpongeBob thing where he's like 2 hours later.
2 hours later.
Yes.
Oh man, I connect in so many ways to everything you're saying because you mentioned a little earlier about signs, and I mentioned this a lot too. I feel like I get signs all the time when it's just like, I like to call them God's love notes. I've heard people call them God winks. But it's like these little moments that he just gives you a sign. Either you feel a pull to do something or sometimes for me, it's like just an acknowledgement, like he's letting me know I'm in the right place at the right time. And so I just love that you mentioned that because it's something that I think is so missed because like you talked about in the beginning, we live such a hurried lifestyle. We're always in a rush. We're not ever slowing down to see these things because it's actually around us all the time if we're opening our eyes to it and we're aware. So I love that you said also, because we skipped ahead a lot because of the question that Walt asked. I kind of wanted to go back to, man, how did you even get to the point where you went to that church? Because you said you were in school for the theology stuff a little bit, like you had started to change course, and then next thing we know, you're like at a big church getting hired. So I'm like, how did you go from there to there? Like,
what was the sign that led you there?
How did you get to being a pastor? Because I didn't even know that you were. I don't know. There's something about your voice and the way you speak from your soul that you feel God. I felt that for the first time I met you, knowing nothing about you. So I think it's so interesting that you ended up being a pastor. So how did you get to being a pastor?
Yeah, so even to like tie up, like even what you're asking, so many people ask me like, boy, the beginning of your life was a nightmare, like several nightmares. And now you like living your dream and you're doing all these things you love all over the world, impacting people. But like they asked the question you just asked, like what happened in the middle? What happened here to go from there to here? And like I phrase it this way because a lady asked me that same question one day, and before I knew it, I just yelled out. I said, "The magic is in the middle. The magic, like that. That's when. So in the middle is when I was lost. Like I was in that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to help people. I was going from job to job. So I was working in corporate America. But so here, let me give you the timeline. So from that revelation of like I'm supposed to help people at 21, it was about 5 years. 4 years I graduated. After that, I'm like 24, 25. And then I'm doing some like missions. So I literally like am doing mission work in Australia. So I wound up getting married at 26. And so I come back from Australia and I'm like, man, think if they want to keep me there. They want me to bring the wife back. Like we're not married yet, but we're about to get married. We're engaged. They're like, bring her. We got a place for you. I'm like, yeah, let's go to Australia. But then I came back and I was like, yo, we got a wedding in a couple months. Like I got back like 5 months before my wedding. I was like, you should probably find a job That's probably a good thing to have as a spouse.
Wow.
Could have started off right.
It's probably a good idea to have one of those. So I'm thinking it's no big deal. I got a degree. It'll be fine. Easy, right? Wrong.
Mm.
Paid over $100,000 for education and couldn't find nobody's job. So I wound up going through a temporary agency and working at one of the top corporations in the state of Oklahoma. Literally did that till about a month after our honeymoon. Came in on a Friday, just like every other day, and they were like, oh yeah, hey guys, just letting you know you have 7 days. Our budget has been cut. This entire department no longer exists. In 7 days you will not have a job.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what the heck? So from that, I was out of a job 2 weeks before the temporary agency I was working through, like, well, you did such incredible work, like, we'll find you another job. And they did. But you guys know as well as I, income stopped for 2 weeks, but bills do not stop. So it took almost a year just to work out of that little hole that was created in those couple of weeks. So I worked for this other company and it was great. They loved me. I loved them. Remarkable time. I was there for a year. And in that year, at the end of the year, they're like, oh man, our new budget is about to roll out. We can't wait because the first thing we're going to do is hire you, make you official part of the team. And I remember the day I came into the office. I had my brown suit on. I came in there and my boss looked like she lost her best friend. She was crying. I just saw her recently, by the way. And she was telling, like, this is crazy, like full circle. I just saw her in the airport when I was going to speak in Myrtle Beach a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, oh my God, like, I'm so proud of you. And like, we haven't talked, but I'll keep up with you. And I got your book and I listen to your podcast. I'm like, that's cool. But so back to the day I walk into the office, she's crying like she lost her best friend. I'm like, yo, what happened? And I'm thinking, she's like, yeah, the new budget just came out. And I'm like, uh-oh. I don't know what this is, but it can't.
The heart just drops.
Not good.
Not only did they not get, so let me tell you a little bit. Both of these are oil and gas companies. I live in Oklahoma. So normally when the rest of the world is in recession, we good because oil and gas is good. But it's like the opposite. When everything else is good, sometimes the barrel of gas takes a hit and then Oklahoma is down. So both of these were oil and gas companies. So this was one of those times where the world was good, but we were not.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she was like, not only did we not get the budget to hire you, we got to let go of 16 people and the 8 temps are the first to go automatic. So here I am again, back to the same position. I'm like, God, okay, man, I'm trying. Like, you know, in that moment, that's when I got let go of, and it was nothing I did wrong. I get escorted out the building by security. My wife and I are sharing a car that we're borrowing from a church member, and she has it. She can't come and get me. So here I am, 100 degrees, walking down the side of the highway in a suit. And you might think I'm insane, but I had peace because I was like, I don't know how this works out, but I know it's going to. And so, all right, God, I can't wait to see what you do with this one because my life has taught me again and again and again that, like, I've been through so much already. I know every time one of those big things come, all right, let me watch you. Let's see how you flex.
Yes. You know what's cool is that takes us back to the first question I asked, which was, look at your, or the statement I made where I said, look at your life resume. If we all just took a step back out of the tornado of emotions we feel and the reactive state we're in when we feel disappointment or hurt or pain and looked at the totality of our life, we'll realize how powerful we are. We'll realize that that moment is made to lead us to our purpose. And then we'll lean in, surrender from the chaos and the emotion, have peace, like you talked about, Marcus, and just be okay with whatever is coming next and lean into the lessons that we learn and continue to elevate who we are as human beings. It seems so simple to say. The execution of that is not always the easiest. I wanted to ask you too, before we moved on to the 4 keys, what does living mean to you? What's your 60-second snippet on, if you're going to tell somebody this is what living, L-I-V-I-N, because Matthew McConaughey, this is what living means to Marcus Black. What is that for you?
Living. Living is literally freedom, but people think freedom is and what it actually is are 2 different things. Like, freedom is more than just having the ability, like, you know what I'm saying, as a country to go and pursue your goals and your dreams. Freedom is like, I don't live under the expectations of any other human being. Like, so many times our biggest fears are driven by what people are going to think. How are people going to react? Are they going to accept me? Nah, living means waking up every day and doing whatever is in my heart to serve those around me and creating impact and transformation in people's hearts and lives, and doing that unapologetically and without regard to what nobody else thinks.
I love that.
So before I go into the 4 keys, because we are going to have to move it along, but
I feel like because I didn't actually answer your question, so give me 60 seconds because
Okay.
to answer her last question, I was giving you the long round. In that time, I was going from job to job. I wound up attending this church. Someone invited me, and I remember walking in. The day I walked in, I was like, God, it'd be great to work here someday. But I was like, that'll never happen. It's like the Disney World of churches. And 1 year later, I had just started showing up. I started serving. I started joining some teams. I started going to every event they did. I started serving all day. Like, what you need? I'm Johnny on the spot. Let me get in. I wasn't looking for no job. I was just serving. I caught the eye of the executive pastors and not even knowing, and they were just grilling me. So they have been interviewing me for a long time without me knowing. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in an office with them and they're offering me a job. And I'm like, why would you do this? I have no credentials. And they're like, you have the only credential that matters. And that's a heart for God and his people.
And that's what service can do for every single one of us.
It opened the door.
Amen.
I know. So would you say before you became part of that church, do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an ambivert. So I'm just learning this new term. I've always considered myself an extrovert because I love people. But I think the older I get, I'm realizing that I was just doing that from a place of insecurity because of where I felt unloved. I think I really enjoy my time to myself, and I really enjoy, like, I can recharge and refuel, but I also don't get drained by being in crowds either. Like, I love people. So it's like I'm kind of a middle of that road.
Yeah, because I thought interesting that you said like you didn't really want to get up on stage when
I
they
hate
first
that.
wanted you to do that, but that's what you do now.
I still don't love it. Like, I love it and I don't. It's weird. I don't love the thought of me getting up in front of a bunch of people and talking. But I do love the thought of me going and giving people the keys and tools to transform their life.
I find this very interesting because I consider myself an introvert, even though I think I'm on the extrovert. It's kind of like you said. I don't know. I got like an extroverted introvert because I'm like somewhere right in the middle where I'm the same. I like my time to myself, and it's not comfortable for me to get up in front of people, but I do love the connection with people. So I think there's like a weird same thing where like, well, I see him as like he's an extrovert. He's always loved being up in front of everyone. He gets recharged by being around people. And I feel like I need that time to myself to recharge. And like, so I just think it's so cool that you said, because I go through this too. Like, I always thought like being an introvert, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't get up on stage. I would never do this podcast. I would never do this kind of stuff. And it's almost like it's weird because meeting you, like when I heard you on Clubhouse, it was like, that's why I talk about like being aware of these signs, because I felt like God put you in my path that day because I was just starting to.
Wasn't that the first time you shared on Clubhouse? Was that day? Because Marcus, you called us right after that.
It was because of him that I literally got out of my shell and got on there and started talking, because he said, because you can. And I don't know, something he was saying that day just had me in tears. And I was like, he's right. Like, I'm not sharing my gifts because I'm letting all these other things get in the way. And it just hit me like, I could be doing so much more. And I was at a point in my life where, I've been a stay-at-home mom all these years, and now my kids are grown and they're like not needing me in the same way. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, I know I'm entering this next chapter of life, and what am I going to do? And I just kept having this play in my head, like, what am I going to do now? And I felt like I lost my purpose, because my purpose had been being a mother and a wife. And now it's like, okay, well, I'm always going to be those, but in a different capacity. And so what is for me now? And I just kept questioning that. And I heard you that day and I was like, man, I need to do more. Like, there is more purpose for me. And so I just think it's so cool. And then hearing you talk about that even encourages me even more. Like, it's, knowing that it's just a purpose that gets you up and going every day, and not am not listening to the outside world and all the things that they say, and tuning that out and just following your heart and listening to your purpose. And so I just think it's just beautiful to listen to. I'm like having all these moments during this podcast where I'm just like, oh, I so relate.
Well, I would
Okay, so
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Marcus.
I
Go
was-
ahead. No,
I-
go ahead.
Walt is an anomaly in that he's a rare gem, because if you start to do the research and run the numbers, the majority of people in the space, like thought leaders and like the people who do what we do, are introverts. All my mentors are introverts. I'm the most extroverted of all of them. So like, it's rare that you meet somebody that has the giftings of Walt. He knows that he was born a star, right? You know, even though people tried to break it and take it. But I hope that encourages your heart to, like, Trent is an introvert and he will tell you that he is. Like, he got a small group, like he don't, it's big crowds and people. Like my pastor who trained me at the church, same, and he's pastoring 12,000, 15,000 member church, but they're all introverts.
Wow.
Do you know why I think extroverts struggle in this? I'm going to take this a little sideways, and then we're going to get to the 4 keys. As an extrovert, now part of my hurt from my past is I lived for the applause. But extroverts typically, they like the applause. That's why they're the class clown. That's why they'll want to go on stage. But in this journey, building a professional speaker portfolio, doing podcasts, like really getting in the arena in a huge way and fighting the battle that you need to fight and getting knocked down and scraped up. There's times when you're in the Coliseum in the middle of the arena and nobody's even in the arena. Nobody's clapping. Nobody's cheering for you. And I feel like extroverts struggle in this arena sometimes because they're waiting for the applause, where an introvert doesn't need the applause typically in the same way. And so think about, I want you to think about this. If you can only leave somebody with 4 keys today to just being extraordinary, somebody that really is waiting to get into the arena, somebody that's been asking the why me their whole entire life, and they're ready to ask the what for, what are the 4 things that you'd leave somebody with today that they can execute on right now to transform the direction where their life's headed, so ultimately they can step into their purpose?
I love this, baby. We getting practical. Listen, get your pens and pads ready. I'm going to give you how to transform my life and how you can transform yours as well. Number 1 is you have to accept reality. The biggest reason you are stuck where you are is because you have not allowed yourself to accept that it is what it is. I told you, my father was an alcoholic. He was verbally abusive. He was all these things, and I wanted him to be something other than what he was. And that hung me up for years in my heart and soul, just being tormented in pain. It wasn't until the day I decided to accept that this is what it is, this is who he is, and that ain't gonna change, and I can't do a singular thing about it. If you think about every adversity you've ever faced in your life, you can sit and replay those in a loop in your brain, like a nightmare, like you rewatching your favorite horror film. Or you can choose to accept that you can never do a singular thing to change that, and that just is what it is. And once you create this acceptance of that just is the reality of your life, then you can move on from it, because you can realize you're not defined by that. And that's other people. That don't got nothing to do with you. You can't live for other people. So once you have acceptance, now you can hit the next step in your journey, which is the second step would be to face your giants. So once you accept that these things are what they are, I am not gonna lie. Me and my dad, and I'll say this, like he found healing through me because of who I became in spite of him. So he's been off alcohol for over a decade now. He's like my biggest fan and supporter, and reconciliation has happened. And he always tells me it's because of the man you became. Even when I tried to break you, that helped him take those steps, right? But in that season, the things that he said held me captive. You don't have a voice. You know, you're going to be nothing but a failure in this life, a bum. You'll never be anything but a dirty factory worker, like telling me things like this. And I believed that and I bought into it. But until I accepted the reality that he was just a human being trying to figure it out, and he was just lost and hurting, and he took it out on the people closest to him. Once I accepted that, then I could stand in the mirror and face my giant, which was the insecurity and the voices that told me that I was never enough, that I wasn't going to be enough, that I couldn't do anything of significance in this world, and that I would be a bum. I had to face that giant. And you have your own giants, whatever they be, whether it be eating disorders, whether it be depression, like whatever it is, you got to stand face to face. Stop running from it. Stop hiding from it, because you ain't going to get away. because your monster, your giant actually lives inside of you, in your mind. So no matter how far you run or how hard you run, no matter where you go, you taking it with you. You can run to the other side of the world and that giant gonna be like there, knocking on your door. So you have to then face that giant, and that's how you overcome fear. Because when you face it, you realize it was never as big or as powerful as you thought it was to begin with. When I realized that I may actually have some gifts, I may actually have some things to offer, that's when things started to shift. And I realized my giant wasn't more powerful than me. It was just the shadow of the giant that seemed, it was the wizard in Oz hiding behind, like, oh, really? It's like this?
Yeah.
Once you face it, that's where you challenge and confront your fears and you overcome those fears. Then the third step of this journey is you find your truth. You got to silence the lies of others. You've been told by everybody. You've been told by teachers. You've been told by parents. You've been told by significant others and relationships. You've been told things about yourself that you have adopted as truth. And you've taken their messages, their hurtful messages, folded them into nice little pretty little squares and tucked them into your heart. And you walk with them every day. And you carry the wounds and the holes in your heart of those lies that people have spread and told and taught you about yourself. So it's not until you have faced the giant, now you can learn a new truth. And this happens practically in the form of affirmations. You got to create affirmations that directly contradict the lies that were told about you. So if somebody told you you were ugly for most of your life and you look at yourself and you pick yourself apart, you have to physically write down a new affirmation and tell yourself, look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, no, you are incredibly beautiful and you are God's masterpiece. Don't come and Google some affirmations. Like, right. You can do that. That's a good place to start.
GPT those affirmations.
If you wanted to really create transformation in your heart, you got to create your own affirmations that directly contradict the lies that were told to you about you. Mm-hmm. So I was told I was nothing but an idiot, a dummy, and I would never be able to do anything special in the world. And then I started telling myself, yo, you are intelligent and capable of accomplishing anything you put your mind to. When you first start saying these things to yourself, you're going to feel ridiculous. It's going to feel dumb. Mm-hmm. But what you don't realize is you are planting seeds into your subconscious that will take root and eventually will drive your actions and cause you to think differently about your entire situation. So you don't have a choice. You owe it to yourself to give yourself that gift of finding out your new truth. When I decided I was a world changer, I was told I was nothing but a bum from a small town from the mud. And I decided, no, I am a figure, a pillar of society that's going to go and change the world. And lo and behold, leads me to number 4. Once you've accepted reality, those things that you cannot change, and you let them be what they be. Once you've overcome your fear through facing your giants, and you found your new truth by silencing the lies and moving those messages from your heart and letting them blow in the wind. Then the 4th one is live life fully for the rest of your days. You figure out what it is you love and why you love it, and you spend the rest of your natural born life unapologetically going for that. So you already asked me what it meant for me to live, but what does it mean for you to live? That's listening. What does that really look like? Not what they want you to do, not what they told you can do, not what you think you might possibly be capable of. What do you want to do? And you get your butt up and you take the steps and you just go and do it. And you learn a little bit more and you do it more and you grow a little bit more and you adjust and you learn and you grow and you adjust. And next thing you know, you build the life of your dreams best as you can.
Hey, unapologetically, you heard them. Stop trying to people please because everybody isn't going to like you. Unapologetically live your life like he said. Because you can. We can all do that.
Yes. You're not truly living unless you're living authentically who you are. I can't say that enough. Just like he just said. And do it the rest of your life.
Yeah. So, Marcus, man, it's always a blessing, brother. You know, you and I connect quite a bit, but every time we talk, but it's just different being able to interview you versus us just having a convo. But I thank you so much for just blessing everybody who's going to listen to this, because I know there's many, but I know this is going to especially reach the one out there that needed to hear this today, man. I just appreciate you so much, brother, for joining us. And look, guys, I want to
I want to thank God that you didn't listen to those voices and that you lived in your purpose and you listened to your voice and God's voice. And you are a true blessing to all of us. So I'm just so thankful you're here today. You always touch me every time I talk to you. You've been a mentor to us, and I just really, really, really appreciate you.
Thank y'all. It means far more than you know. And the respect and the love and the admiration is mutual. Definitely.
Appreciate it. Look, guys, for all of you out there listening, Marcus is a professional speaker. This is what he does. He's honed his craft over years of doing this. And so you might be thinking to yourself right now, man, on an inspirational stage, he'd be so amazing. But what Marcus does is so much more than that. I think you just spoke at 2 colleges recently. You've spoken at multiple businesses recently. Like, you've done a lot of things over the course of the last few years, but recently you've done some things and made an impact in multiple different arenas. And so if you're out there listening and you're thinking, man, I should have him come talk to my sales team. I should have him come talk to the students at my school. I mean, he's lived doing urban missionary leadership and mentorship programs in schools, colleges. Like, there's so many arenas that Marcus can come make a significant impact in where you're sitting right now. So if you're not the decision maker, go find the decision maker. And then I want you to connect with Marcus, and I want you to bring him in so he can live in his purpose and use the voice God has given him to impact those people around you that need it most. And it might be you that he's getting ready to impact, or it might be somebody that's really close to you that he's going to impact. And Marcus, I know you got a lot of other things going on too, but I know speaking is your jam. Speaking's your thing, like it's mine. I know we'll continue to share so many stages together, and I just love when we're around each other because it's like this fire. You could feel it, sparks flying, freaking infernos everywhere. We just dropping golden bombs like you did this entire episode. But where can people find you? Those people that are listening, they're like, man, I know Walt and Stephanie don't bring anybody on here, first of all, if they're not living authentically and congruent. But I know for sure they're not going to recommend anybody if they can't deliver. And they know you can deliver because of that. Where can they go find you at?
Yo, man, I'm like Visa. I'm everywhere you want to be. So you can find me at mblackspeaks everywhere, like on all social medias, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Now Clapper, YouTube, all the places at mblackspeaks. But the best place to send me a message and connect with me is on Instagram. I'll see it. It's cool. We'll connect. And so do that. Holla at your boy because you can.
Well, again, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. I just love you to death. And I will put also in the show notes all of Marcus's handles so that if you want to connect with him, you can just go down there and click on it. It'll take you right to his page so that you can continue to help him be the world changer that he is.
Yes, follow this world changer. I mean, how could you not be moved by the passion that he shares? I mean, wow. It's just wow.
So look, y'all, we're going to wrap it up. Join us next week as we deep dive into the power of self-talk. Marcus talked about affirmations. I'm a military guy and about no affirmations, but I am now. And I'll tell you, the last couple of years, I've really grown into this. But we're going to talk about the power of self-talk and how it's going to shape your future, yourself, the success, the abundance that will either come your way or you will deny yourself from by not leaning into the way that you talk to yourself and how you allow your energy to flow. So look, as always, if this episode resonated with you, look, don't just tell somebody about it. Grab the link and send it to them. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out of any of this fire that continues to get put on this show. And then don't forget to go to our YouTube page at Legacy Warrior Podcast. Instagram is literally the same thing. It's been really cool. And Steph, I didn't even tell you about this. On Instagram today, we had somebody send us another idea for a show. We continue to get these ideas for shows. And so we're delivering what you guys want to hear, what you guys want to learn about, so that you can continue to grow into the person that you're meant to be and maximize your potential. So until the next time, stay in the arena of life, keep fighting, keep taking steps forward, and
leave this world a little bit better than you found it.
See you guys next Tuesday.